Hello everybody, and welcome to today's video. We're not going all over the top this time, but in today's video what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at tree over the board games I played recently in the last tournament I played. Now, I had taken a little bit of a break, just being busy with other things from tournament play. So the first game, I have the white pieces. And I start with this move, 4. Now, for some additional information, this was a tournament with game 25 and delay 5. So delay means that you don't get any time added to your clock, but you have 5 seconds to make each move. So I play F4, this is the bird opening, and there's a couple different approaches that can be tried here. You can try E5, which E5 is playing it gambit style, which some of my opponents have played before. I'm going to turn this down. Wait a second. That's good. You can play D5 and basically get a sort of Dutch style game. My opponent plays D5, I played this move, and now they play this move, Knight C6. Now, Knight C6 I don't think is as good as some of the other lines. Like, here it's more common to play C5 than Knight C6. But okay, Knight C6 was played, I play E3, and the reason why you play E3 is you want to quickly open up this bishop so you can castle, because one of the disadvantages of the bird opening is that whenever this F-pawn moves up 2 squares, you weaken this diagonal. With weakening this diagonal, you either want to put your bishop here and pin the knight, or put it here and try to quickly castle. Okay, so I play bishop e2, there's a quick trade. Now I try to fianchetto this bishop, put it on this diagonal. And one thing you will notice is that we have a lot of controls on the dark squares, and we want our bishop to complement our control along this diagonal. Now my opponent plays g6. I play bishop b2, bishop g7, castles, castles. And now I play this move d3. Now d3 is a very simple move. I maybe want to prepare e4 in the future. And I also might want to put this knight here, because I want to develop the knight, but I don't want to develop the knight to c3, because if I develop the knight to c3, this bishop is closed, and then I have no scope. So I decide to play this here, that way, and knight a3 is just too awkward, so I prepare to go here. He plays rook here, I move there. He plays e5, we trade, takes. Now I play this move h3. Now I play this move h3 because I didn't like variations where he would play like h5 and then like stick a knight here. Maybe it's something that I shouldn't have worried about in retrospect, and yeah, h3 is not that much of an ambitious move. I also was like contemplating this move e4, but I thought it did not work quite yet. Yeah, it's also possible maybe I confused the move order, because I might have played rook e1 before I played h3, but yeah, okay, so h3 was played, queen e7, rook e1 now, he trades, and now my opponent plays this huge blunder. Now my opponent is around 16 to 1700 over the board, that's the same rating as mine, and he simply did a big oopsie. Now, one thing that you always do, especially if you're playing against very strong players, is you make sure that if you see a tactic that we don't end the calculation on return. Because my opponent thought that a certain move won a piece here. Now, the position's in the balance. I mean, I'm probably going to have to play e4 at some point, and we're just going to have a long game on our hands. White has no clear advantage, and maybe even black is slightly better. As you can see, they have this nice piece development counteracting my strong bishop. They have more central control, and my position is a little bit cramped. In fact, it kind of looks like a Sicilian, but on the other side of the board, and that's one thing that I like about the bird opening. I digress. He plays this move, knight to e4. Now, without the eval on, it might not be so clear to some of you that this is a huge blunder. But the reason this is a huge blunder, well, their idea is simple. After, let's say, you take the knight with, let's say, the knight, they'll take back, You take back because rook queen is hit. Now, uh-oh, spaghetti-o, you lose your bishop. That makes sense. Or let's say you take with the knight first, same thing. You have to take, uh-oh, you lose your bishop. And they probably also calculated that there was bishop to g7, and then they're like free knight. Well, not free, but I'm attacking the queen will move. Next move, I will take the bishop, and then GG, why not? And material in this position is equal. We just traded a minor piece. Now, this did happen in the game, so I will explain to you why this is such a bad move. So after bishop takes g7, knight takes d2, unfortunately there is this nasty move, queen to f6. Now, queen to f6, the only serious move is taking, and after takes, you might be like, well, what's the big deal? You have a bishop, they have a knight, okay, bishops are slightly better, but the problem is, you're in for a cold shower after you play your next move, whatever you play, let's just say this. Rook a d1, uh-oh, spaghetti-o. Where is the knight going? Every critical spot is covered, and the best that you can try is probably this move to damage the pawn structure slightly, but this is terrible. You get a pawn for the piece, and you will lose this game. Also, he would not have moved the rook here, it's attacked by the bishop. I was just going through something quickly. But he plays this move, queen d7 loses on the spot to this, and for the first time in my over-the-board tournament history, something funny happened. Now, obviously, in this position, I saw that mate was unstoppable, so I was spectating other games. Now, whenever I got back, I saw that it was my clock running, but my opponent had pre-moved the checkmate for me. Now, there is really nothing you can do here to even try to stop the mate, so I do sympathize with my opponent, and I guess they just didn't realize that I mean, after, I guess, not the rook there, but like, let's say this, they saw this position and decided that this was the same as resigning anyway. So, we get a victory with the burr opening, but in the next game we get the black pieces. Can we get it done? Now, this game I am playing Kevin Kraft. And actually the details are wrong here. Ooh, just hold on a second. So we're playing a guy, Kevin Kraft. Now, this guy was... yeah, this guy was... I would say he seemed not the youngest, but also not the oldest. All the people I played today, if you told me that they were, like, teenagers, I'd believe it. But my opponent starts with c4. Now, online, actually, I've been starting to experiment with knight f6, knight c3, e5, playing these reverse Sicilian positions. That being said, I've done this only a couple times, and how confident I am with it is a little bit shaky at best. So after knight f6, he plays this move g3. Now, I still have the option to go e5 here, and we can play a reverse Sicilian dragon. That being said, I don't recall ever played this person before. I was a little bit nervous about what they might have brewed up in that if they're an English player, so I opt for playing this move g6. After bishop g2, bishop g7, they play knight f3, I castle, and then I decide at this point, you can play this c6 systems, but I decide at this point that we shall enter a symmetrical English, as I want you to notice that we have a very similar setup. The only difference is I decided to go knight f6 first, I castled first, but now after this move c5, this is completely symmetrical. Now he plays this, I played this, and now he decides to break the symmetry with rook to b1. Now, at this point, I was very concerned. In fact, I spent a lot of time here because after rook b1, I was very unsure what to do here. First off, I had not looked at Rook B1 in any of my notes on this opening, and I have mainly played this opening over the board, as it is a very solid system against the English, but I don't have so much experience against it online. So this Rook B1 move, I thought, was a novelty that could have been some deep cooked preparation, and as we see in the master database, it has been played. Not too many games recently, but it has been played. So after this move Rook B1, I did calculate the move D5, but after D5, let's say takes, knight takes, queen takes. What I didn't like is how any of these knight moves in the future could come with tempo on my queen, and while there's no way to take advantage of it right now, conceptually I just rejected it. Now perhaps I shouldn't have, perhaps I should have spent more time and evaluated this position a bit different. B3 apparently is the best move here to play this pretty clearly. And I guess after a move like bishop to f5, we're doing very well. D3. But now you have to move the queen anyway because e4 is coming, so queen d6 or queen d8. Basically any queen move, and you keep some small edge. Now that being said, I'm not a computer. I did not understand that this was okay. To me, it looked like maybe I was justifying the plan. So instead, I opt, after being surprised, for a more conservative approach by playing this move d6. Now d6 has basically the same idea of d5, as it opens up this bishop, defends this pawn. Now my opponent plays this move d3, which apparently transposes into more mainline theory. I play rook to e8, preparing to maybe go e5 in the future. At least hint at it. Also, this move rook e8 is sort of a waiting move, because I might have to play bishop d7, but let's say my opponent plays something like e4 in the future, maybe I want to immediately go for the pin. But I digress. Rook e8, bishop d7 is played. Now I lined this up on this to attack this square. Now I'm not really threatening to go there immediately, I thought, because after, let's say, yeah, so this happens. Now he plays b4. Now, after a6, I really contemplated playing the move, sorry, after a3, I contemplated playing this move, a5, but it just seemed a little bit bleh to give them knight b5 and not have a clear way to get it out. Now, a5 might have been the right choice, but I was a little bit too scared to play that, and I ended up allowing them to play b4, b5. I have this knight on the edge, which is not so great. However, my opponent's position is very blocked, so I think this eval bar might be a little bit misleading, at least in terms of human play. a4 is played. I play this move h6 because I would love to play a move like bishop to h3, but after bishop h3, bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop, there is this move knight g4. And knight g4 is not winning the game or anything, but I did find this move to be a little bit annoying. And also, if you try to hang out on, like, the file, there is this move e4 now, I believe, and we're forced to trade queens, and this was really not what I was going for. Well, okay, I guess you don't have to do anything here. You could just, like, have them trade with you, but I was very sketched out by that position. So I play this move h6 to prepare bishop h3 in the future without having to worry about takes knight g5, which I think is very logical. Maybe it's not the best course of action, but I thought it was very logical during the game. Also, they have the plan of doing the same thing that I do, and whenever they do that plan, I want to be able to meet that move with king h7. So it's a multi-purpose move. Now, bishop f4 was played. Now, bishop f4 I didn't think was a bad move, but I did think maybe the bishop was better placed along b2, or perhaps even d2 in the future. So I play this move bishop a3 now, and now my opponent thought for a long time here. Now, with their move rook to e1 earlier, it always because that I did to deny the bishop trade. So I was surprised that they thought so long on this move, because if you're going to play bishop h1, it makes sense to play it quickly. But here I play knight h5, and here my opponent makes a huge blunder. Now what I was calculating in my calculations was that bishop d2 was going to be played, and then I was considering whether or not it was good to go for f5. This is what I was seeing in my head. Now f5 does not work immediately, as it's just, well, Rakig's too weak. And I don't know what the specific move to refute this is here, though. But I guess my biggest worry would be something like knight d5. Which maybe is not something to worry about, but there's something in the position. Ah, okay, knight h4, and this pawn is super weak. Yeah, so I could have gone for this immediately, and I was sort of aiming to... I was thinking of the game, I probably shouldn't go for something like this, but instead my opponent plays this huge blunder, knight to d5. Now, knight d5 is a huge blunder because his idea, very simply, is after takes, he's completely fine here, he doesn't damage his pawn structure, and everything is hunky-dory. The problem is he neglected the simple but effective move e6. Now, e6 is a brutal move because at the end of the day, you can't really do anything productive here. He ends up deciding to take the pawn because... Now, what I was expecting during the game was I was expecting him to go here. Which I don't know if this is the best move. Maybe bishop takes c6 is better. But I was expecting him to go here. And then, yeah, this e5 move traps the bishop. And he would love to, like, go somewhere with the bishop. But his best move is to play bishop g5, h6 g5, knight takes g5. And, okay, I mean, it's a terrible position, but at least you have a pawn for the piece. I was thinking something more along the lines of knight e3 during the game. But he plays bishop takes d6, so yes, he's going to lose a piece immediately. And I think he played this because he didn't realize that after this there's queen d7, and the bishop is still trapped. Now, after takes, I was actually shocked, because I did not think that he would take back. I thought that he would, well, to be fair, I think I was calculating this move, what was it? No, I think I was thinking of something in the other line. Never mind. But, okay, so he takes here. Now, here he misses his last chance to create some, like, problems for me. He should have played bishop takes c5, and after pawn takes c5, okay, maybe these pawns will one day become a pass pawn if I'm not careful. This is a pass pawn, and who knows, maybe it goes out of control for me. Now, that being said, I am just up a clear piece here, so I should still win the game. But instead he plays bishop b5, which makes the procedure pretty routine. Now I play this move queen d6, and here I audibly, like, well, I didn't audibly, but I visibly shook my head, and I was very confused, because after knight b3, I simply did not see what my opponent's plan was. Because, if he was going to move any of these rooks here, I would expect this rook, because the one thing white has going for this position is I am up a piece. Actually, it looks like I'm at least up 2 pieces, right? But the one problem that I have in this position is that this knight is offside. So by playing this move, I get my knight back to the mainland, and after this move, rook c6, I play this move, queen takes d5. Now, the point of queen takes d5 is if you take the queen, uh-oh, spaghetti-o, somebody just got back ring mated. Okay, let's say queen takes. Queen takes, rook takes, but you can still not take back because of the same checkmate. And I hesitated a little bit to play this move because, you know, Daniel Raditsky often says, you know, it's not about winning the brilliancy prize. At the end of the day, we're just trying to win the game. So, in my calculations, I was, you know, aggressively trying to find some reason why it didn't work. So after queen takes d5, I was like, is there some craziness with rook takes g6. I was like, well, there's no checks in this position, so I highly doubt it. But I spent a while nonetheless. I get my rook to the open file. Here, they unfortunately make an oopsie with bishop f3. And at this point, I think that maybe their best bet was playing something like this, but here I trade, and then it's a complete disaster. But okay, I get this pawn. Here, they touch here. They were about to go here, but they realized that it was futile, didn't really make a difference, and that was checkmate. Now, this was a little bit of an underwhelming game, because honestly, I felt like there was some things that I did wrong. This rook b1 move I thought was pretty good practically, as it made me kind of question myself. And maybe I'll investigate it in the future from the white perspective if I end up playing more symmetrical English. But yeah, this knight to d5 move I just thought was very sloppy, because maybe I'm wrong, but I thought after the move bishop d2, I would have to at least work to prove something here. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do, because rook b8 did come in mind, and also knight b7, but also knight b7, like, what am I aiming to do? Am I aiming to do this? That takes a while. Like, it wasn't clear at all what the winning plan is here. And I thought, okay, their play is much easier, because after this, like, I was calculating something along these lines in the game. And also seeing if f5 would ever work, but probably too weakening. Now we get to the final game. Now in the final game, we once again get the white pieces. Now here I'm playing Logan White. Now unfortunately for me, I got the white pieces against Logan White. Otherwise I would have just had to write Logan. But since he got black, I had to write Logan White and not just Logan. Now, I start with this move, knight to c3. Now, knight c3 for several reasons. First off, after the move d5, d4, we can get into a Jabava London. Also, against e4, I can quickly play e5, and then I can transpose into the bishop's opening. One sample line would be knight f6 here, and after this, I like this line with queen h5. But I digress. So there's a couple of different reasons, and against c5, we can play many different things. We can play e4 or knight f3. I mean, there's a couple different options. And then, I mean, it's just an opening you'll have to investigate for yourself. Okay, so they play e6, and they say French. You know, they want a French. I play d4. They play knight f6. Now here I can still go and transpose it into a French with e4. But after d5, e5, knight d7, this is a French player's dream, because they will get c5 in, they're threatening to go bishop e4, damage the pawn structure, and this is overall just a very pleasant position for them. Now that being said, it is playable. My opponent really likes playing the French. I'm trying to play against my opponent, so instead, with some hesitancy, I play bishop to f4. Now, I also considered bishop to g5, as I thought in this specific line, right, this is like the Trumpowski, except there is no shenanigans, because d5 was not played, and we don't get any knight e4 stuff, where we were chased around with like some g4. So I did consider this, but I ended up playing bishop to f4, c5 was played. And here, I should have played this move d5. Now, in the game, I looked at d5 very briefly, and I don't remember why I didn't like it, but I've had some struggles against the Benoni's structures over the board, so I suspect that I just opted not to, and I tried to play it in the spirit of the London, because I didn't want to really play a Benoni. And here I play this move, queen d7. I'm trying to goad my opponent into taking on b2. But that does not end up happening. Instead, they play this move, bishop b4. a3. Queen a5. Which is a nice move. Now, here, apparently, I am borderline winning after this move, knight g e2. which I did not understand really during the game. What I decided to do instead was I decided to play bishop d3 because I wanted to play knight ge2 without blocking in the bishop. Computer doesn't care, probably will just fianchetto it. But we get this position, he takes this, knight c6, he moves the bishop here, and here I am completely winning if I find this move d5. Now, I did consider the move d5 in this position very briefly, but after d5, e takes d5, I was very unsure of what I was playing for here. Because on the one hand, you can look at the computer and say that it is winning, you know, why don't you do it, coward? But it's like, okay, practically speaking, how am I supposed to keep this advantage? Is it something like knight b5? Because knight b5 castles, and I guess maybe you have time for knight c7. I wonder if that's what it is. We'll check. So knight b5. So knight b5 is still better, but it's not the winning move. My other thought, like, whenever I looked at this position, was this move rook to e1. That after rook to e1, let's say, castles, I was very unsure of how to progress in the attack. Like, sure, these pawns are bad, but if I don't have anything immediate, I'm gonna see, okay. So rook a d1, so it's just nothing immediate. We're just, like, positionally better because their bishop sucks and these pawns sucks. And we're probably gonna win one, if not two, back in the future. I mean, okay. I get it. I looked at this like a similar line during the game, but it was unclear to me. Now, I would later come to regret this move, rook e1, because I also thought about playing rook to d1 instead, but my opponent played bishop g5, and here I now play this move d5, which is completely winning. The problem is, after bishop b7, and my opponent confessed after the game that they got lucky that bishop to d2 existed during the game. But I took here, I got 2 pieces for the rook, and here I play this move queen h4, and it gets a little bit bad, so I play queen takes a7, so I should not have played queen takes a7, practically speaking, I don't think, even if it is the best move. Rook a8 was played, queen, and here I make this huge blunder. Now, I dropped the piece, and I was hoping that, like, it was still in my hand, because I realized that after queen e3, there's this move f4, and I got forked. Now, my grandma didn't call me to tell me not to get forked, so, you know, maybe I can blame them, as they usually do before chess tournaments. But instead I should have maybe, I don't remember what I should have done, probably a move like queen to d4, and I keep my advantage. But it's already starting to get a little bit scary with moves like rook here, and even though you don't have the immediate like f4, c5, it is a little bit concerning. So I was starting to see ghosts, I went here, and after this move, the game is still okay for me. But I don't remember what... I think the game is still okay for me if I find this move queen to e1. Because now, if takes, I of course will take here. And while they take here and they have the strong pawn, it also is a little bit of a shield for me. And after they take here, okay, I am -1 in terms of material. But he has 2 doubled pawns. This pawn is liable to fall in the future. And I have great chances to save the game despite blundering. Instead, I exasperate my problems, and my opponent, and I don't have time pressure, but my opponent does, and sensing that I was starting to lose the game, I started to just play faster. So after this, rook g6, this is like where notation stops, but I'm pretty sure I played this move. Bishop to a6 was played, and I was unsure of what to do here. I think I just ended up playing this, and now my position, my problems in the position are quite clear. And I would go on to play this on till I couldn't anymore, until it was checkmate. However, you know, I got a winning position. I just completely whiffed at the end. And I mean, these things happen. You can't win them all. Now, if I was going to give a brief approximation of how the game concluded, it was something like this. Here. At this point, I did not want to trade, so I played knight d1. They play king f8. Here, and I played this huge blunder in retrospect, which was this move rook e2. Now, this move is not the worst move, but my opponent had like 12 seconds on the clock and we're living off delay, and after rook d8, I believe in this position, I touched my knight, whereas if... No, I touched my, I think I touched my king, and then rook d8 was played, and then I was very sad because I have to, like, move the knight, let's say, and then we got into this endgame, and while we might be able to hold this, and I would win this in a game without increment, without delay, with delay, my opponent had enough time to consolidate everything, and eventually they picked up some pawns, and then they won the game. This h-pawn became a queen, and the rest was history. Now, that means that I did not win this tournament, as my opponent won 3 out of 3 games, which at least I was losing to somebody who was on a winning streak. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed this over-the-board recap. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and follow Nightlen for more chess content, or more content in general, whether it's gaming-related or chess-related. Alright, I will see you all later. Peace.